Visionary by Maya Dixon. Chapter 1. Teresa Lynn awoke as a chill came over her. She shivered slightly, turning over in the soft, downy bed. Wait. This wasn't her four-postered bed. She felt around for her cotton bedspread and instead felt soft strands of grass. Raising her head slowly, Teresa gazed around. Panic engulfed her. This was not her bedroom. Directly in front of Teresa was a tall rock wall with various shrubs, bushes, and an assortment of flowers. Wooden stairs twisted and turned, leading up to a small wooden gazebo with wrought iron tables and chairs. To her right was an ivy-covered door with intricate metal and wooden details, reminding her of the secret garden. Stone walls, cloaked in the same ivy, stood to the left and right of the closed door. On Teresa's right was an expanse of fertile, open land, a fourth of which had paths that veered off on tangents into the clumps of tall trees. With the snap of a twig, Teresa whirled around, eyes wide. In front of her stood a sight she knew quite well, a mingled style of French and English architecture created into an elaborate masterpiece. Gargoyles crouched proudly, heads elevated, the guardians of the night. Teresa raced up the wooden stairs to the gazebo and peered out into the darkness. Although it was the dead of night, she could still make out what was below her. She knew it. That signature circle drive and bridge were the two deciding factors. Teresa saw, engraved in stone, the crest. Latin words surrounding a wolf that boasted power. Teresa took a deep breath, not quite believing. She was standing in the gazebo on the grounds of the Meadowbrook Mansion. Chapter 2. The Meadowbrook Mansion was large and polished by day, with lavish, sprawling grounds put together with meticulous detail, but by night the mansion was eerie, sitting quietly, its windows glaring ominously in the dim moonlight, hiding away the contents of the house beneath thick panes of tempered glass. The house usually gave Teresa a warm, nostalgic feel, but tonight the grounds and mansion seemed odd, too big. Anything could be hiding inside of either. Betting that she would be safer inside of the house, Teresa crept down the steps of the gazebo and stood in front of the ivy-covered door. Creaking slightly, the door opened to reveal the mansion's driveway and front door, which were near the carriage house. Shaking at the oddness of her situation, Teresa tried on the oak door. Surprisingly, it was unlocked and looked new. Well, at least not so worn and battered. That's odd, Teresa thought out loud. Tour guides were usually supposed to lock up after the last tour. Teresa shrugged and locked the door. She had everything planned out. She would sleep inside the mansion until 3 a.m., and then sleep in the gardens until the first tour, which she'd take, just so she did not look odd for coming out of the gardens for no reason. Teresa decided to sleep on one of the red lounge couches in the living room. She would just move the "Do Not Touch" signs as if she had not seen them. There were no "Do Not Touch" signs. In fact, there were no tears or faded patches or peeling on the furniture, no dresses or hats or jewelry from Matilda's dress exhibition, and no demonstration signs telling about the room or any old photographs of the family. Teresa backed up to the wall, mouth dry, stomach lurching. Everything was wrong. All wrong. Chapter 3. Teresa felt like screaming, but she knew she mustn't. Teresa mused the possibilities in her mind. A. The museum had repaired the furniture. B. Fake exhibits were put in at night. C. She was in the Twilight Zone. B sounded the most reasonable, but also due to the fact that the door had been new-looking and unlocked, C seemed to be the best choice. But Teresa decided to continue to browse around the house, hoping against hope that her Twilight Zone theory was incorrect. She tiptoed skillfully down the great hall. Portraits of the family glared down at her, their eyes seeing, yet not really seeing. Teresa was petrified. Being in the mansion at night, and hopefully alone, was terrifying. She stumbled about in the darkness, feeling for anything. A door? Something. Just then, Teresa felt a doorknob. Overcome by surprise, she recoiled, scratching her arm and leaving a long, shallow cut on her right arm. Grimacing in pain, but pleased to feel a door, Teresa, clutching her throbbing arm, quietly turned the doorknob. The door opened abruptly, revealing a small room with yet another door. Feeling the intricate carvings on the doorknob, designed by Matilda, Teresa swung the door open to reveal another, larger room. Searching around, she felt a lamp and immediately turned it on. It cast a faint, sickly glow over the room. The room was expansive, full of detailed wooden carvings. Teresa recognized it immediately as Alfred's study. Her heart dropped as she realized that the furniture in the study had the same characteristics as that of the living room. New, without ropes, signs, or displays. Frustrated, Teresa whimpered miserably and thought desperately, "Where am I?" As though answering her prayers, her eyes fell on a newspaper lying on Alfred's desk. The newspaper looked relatively new. "Great," Teresa whispered, but the newspaper bore a date that made her blood run cold. April 13th, 1929. Chapter 4. This is the end, Teresa thought. Before she could stop them, tears raced each other down her face. They were hot and sticky and plastered her face. But then Teresa stood up and thought determinedly, "I have nothing to lose, so anything goes. I awoke in the mansion after sleeping, so now maybe I have to sleep to return." Teresa was exhausted, but she used her last bit of strength to haul herself up to the bedrooms. Selecting the first wing she saw, she tried to carefully walk down the hall, but stumbled and tripped, landing on the floor. She shrieked loudly, too loudly. From a few rooms ahead of her, Teresa heard someone say, in a calm yet firm feminine voice, "Who is that? Richard? Danny? Barbara? Francis? Alfred?" Teresa scurried behind a wooden chair. Matilda Wilson! It had never occurred to her that she may be visiting the house while the family lived there. Matilda was ambling down the hall now. She had donned a cream nightgown and glittery cream slippers. She was quickly approaching Teresa's hiding spot. Teresa dove into the nursery. Unfortunately, Matilda had the very same idea. Chapter 5. Barbara, a petite girl of 13, quickly jolted out of sleep. Upon hearing a crash a few feet from her door, a small, dark figure slipped into Barbara's room. Only a few moments later, Barbara's mother entered her room. "Hush, my child," Matilda said soothingly. "All is well, but we may be having a small problem." "Mother, what is this problem?" Matilda thought for a moment. "I expect an intruder, but it would be rash to report to the police without evidence. I'll only search your room." Matilda walked around, examining the furniture and inspecting beneath the bed. Barbara watched, eyes wide, from her position on the bed. Teresa dared not breathe. She was shaking, hidden inside of the roomy oak trunk at the foot of Barbara's bed. Matilda shut all of the doors and flipped on every lamp. "They have to be in here. I know it," she said, frustrated now.